So many tourists know that elephants are highly poached for the ivory that they have, but that doesn't stop tourists actually bringing pieces of ivory, whether it be bangles or bracelets, back to the UK without CITES permits. It's actually quite sad because the first third of an ivory tusk is actually hollow. Now, because I can actually put my fingers in the first third of this means that this tusk was actually from a baby elephant, and that would have been all the animal died for. So CITES is a convention on international trade in endangered species, and it's there to protect over 33,000 species that are controlled. This is done by legal permitting. Now, whilst there is a legal trade, there is also an illegal trade, and they reckon that that comes third to drugs and arms in the amount of money that's made from it. As the world opens up for travel, tourists go further and further, so we're actually coming across more unusual stuff. Whereas in the old days, we perhaps come across coral or sea turtle shells. Now we're finding quite unusual medicines that contain endangered species. We do come across some unusual seizures from time to time. Whilst the mundane things like the piece of coral in a passenger's suitcase is not really exciting. We did have a number of years back, we received information a gentleman was carrying a crocodile, what appeared to be a stuffed crocodile, about 6 foot through the terminals. We got officers to check this out, and they actually did find a gentleman going into the Green Channel, which is nothing to declare, with a brown taped crocodile, stuffed crocodile, with a strap round its middle, almost like a suitcase as he's coming through. He had purchased that on holiday, and needless to say, it was actually seized off him. Quite often tourists don't actually realise that they're bringing back endangered species. Some of them may well know that perhaps they shouldn't be bringing something back, but as mentioned with certain plant medicines, they contain endangered species and perhaps the tourists aren't so aware. Well, I think it's fair to say that people should be suspicious. If they go to a market or a shop where something's being sold, whether it be animal or plant material, they've got to know exactly what it is that they're buying. They can check out what the product is, but they will need to know both the English name and, more importantly, the Latin name, where they can check online, websites like Species Plus. They can input that Latin name, they can find out if it is an endangered species. If so, they then have to go through the requirements for obtaining a licence, which can take some time. So once you've actually identified that you do have an endangered species or a CITES-listed product, then you need to obtain licenses. Now, what you have to remember is these can take some time to actually obtain. So you will need to obtain an export permit from the CITES Management Authority of the country you've come from, and more importantly, you will probably need an import permit into the UK. So if they're unsure or if they don't know how to obtain a license, the easiest solution is don't purchase the item, because it saves you getting into trouble when you come back to the UK.